come one human family. Here we 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 come one human family. Goodness gracious. It is launch day. Crew Dragon. Can you believe it? It's here, May 27th. You made it. We made it. Oh my Google. I am so excited. Do you know how excited I am? I am so excited. I am so excited. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm so excited I forgot to button my sleeves. Oh wow. I think I'll just roll them up today. This is how excited I am. No, I'll button them. You know why? Because it's important to do things the right way, especially on launch day. Launch day is where we get they say we cross our T's, we dot our I's. Dot our I's and cross our T's. We get all our ducks in order because it is launch day. Launch day is the day we have to have everything right because we're going to space today. I hope. The weather is a little funny at Kennedy Space Center right now. If the weather's not perfect, we'll wait to launch the spaceship on Saturday. SpaceX is launching a brand new spaceship. SpaceX is launching a brand new spaceship called Crew Dragon. It's a spaceship that people are going to get to ride, including people like you. You could ride this spaceship. SpaceX's Crew Dragon. That's why I'm excited. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my Google. Great googly moogly. Today is the day. In Key West, we have a saying, today's the day. There's a famous treasure hunter. His name is Mel Fisher. And his saying was, today's the day. Don't wait till tomorrow. Today's the day. Today's the day. Remember, I wanted you to write a letter to Jim Bridenstine, who's the administrator of NASA. It's in another one of the videos. Look, speaking of which, very first thing today, let's get this thing going. I want you to know that subscribing really makes a difference. So if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure and subscribe. Today is the day. Hit that subscribe button. Wow. First things first, indeed. You know, I always forget that. But today's not the day I forget details. Today is launch day. Launch day is like a holiday for people who love space like you and me. Launch day is it's like Christmas and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. It's like Halloween and Thanksgiving and Labor Day and Memorial Day and Easter and July 4th and Martin Luther King Day and George Washington Day and Abraham Lincoln Day and Benjamin Franklin Day and Sally Ride Day and Mae Jemison Day and Leland Melvin Day and all my favorite days. Launch day is the best day. Launch day is such a great day. You could have a launch day one day. Imagine what your launch day is going to be like. Oh gosh. On Monday, was it just Monday? On Monday, we went over the names of the astronauts that are on this space mission right now that you're going to get to watch. It's on after this. You're watching this and then it's on after this. Their name, Colonel Bob Behnken and Colonel Doug Hurley. That's who's riding this spaceship, this brand new spaceship. Do you know we've only had 5 spaceships ever in the U.S. that we've had new astronauts ride as a new spaceship mission. The last one was in 1981, the space shuttle when it was brand new. This is a brand new spaceship. There's going to be another one coming up, and another one, and another one. Gosh. So I can think of one. Let's see. This one is called Crew Dragon, and then there's the New Glenn. There's a blue or Woo! I got to settle down. I'm so excited. I would be at Cape Canaveral right now I would be broadcasting live from Cape Canaveral right now, except for the pandemic. But if there wasn't a pandemic, you and I wouldn't be here. You're inside right now watching this, and I'm inside making it while we're doing social distancing, while we're doing quarantine. The astronauts, Colonel Doug Hurley and Colonel Bob Behnken, had to quarantine before this mission. They got to quarantine because they got to stay healthy, and they can't bring pandemic to the International Space Station. There's astronauts up there. So we've been really careful, keeping real careful. And do you know that both Colonel Bob and Colonel Doug are married to astronauts? I got to get over here to turn this light on. You know I like to include you in this process. Bunk, light on. Yes, this is astronaut family. This is our first astronaut family. There's two boys, Colonel Doug and Karen Nyberg. Those two astronauts, they have a son named Jack, who's 10. And Colonel Bob and Megan MacArthur, those two astronauts, they have a son named Theodore. They could have a daughter, but they have sons. And maybe those students will grow up to become astronauts too, just like you. Just like you. Just because a person's parents are astronauts doesn't mean that they're automatically astronauts. Maybe they want to grow up to be opera singers, or maybe they want to grow up to be authors, or maybe they want to grow up to be plumbers. Some plumbers love what they're doing. Maybe they'll be space plumbers. When people ask students what they want to be when they grow up, I think that is a silly question. Actually, my son, Raphael, his sister, Iana, called me on it the other day. She's 6 years old. And I said, Iana, what do you want to, we were having a really good conversation. And I said, Iana, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you know, I almost never ask that question. I just wanted to test it out with her. And she tested me back. She said, I already am who I am. And you know what? That's the truth. And I corrected myself. I said, you're right. You are who you are. So what do you want to do when you grow up? And then I reminded her that we don't just do one career, like if you wanted to be a plumber or a football player or a writer or a dancer. I know plenty of people who are dancers. I know people who want to be the first space dancer. What about the first space YouTuber? That could be you. Wow, for sure. So all of these people, I asked Iana what she wants to do, not who she wants to be when she grows up. She's already her, just like you are already you. I have a very special guest on today's show, and that's also got me very excited. Christa McAuliffe was an astronaut who went up to space years ago. She's a teacher astronaut. I'm an astronaut teacher. And she was a teacher who became an astronaut. Whereas I am working to make you the astronaut that I see inside of you. I'm working to develop those skills and abilities that I've seen inside of you this entire time. Even if you and I have never looked at each other in the eyes before, I know you're out there. And that's why I'm making this message available, that tomorrow's jobs are in space, so that you know, so that you have somebody validating. That means confirming your vision for yourself, not who you want to be, not what you want to be when you grow up, what you want to do. And maybe you want to do a space job. Maybe you don't just want to be an astronaut. Maybe you want to be a space mechanic. Maybe you want to be a space engineer. Some people want to be space lawyers, believe it or not. Some people want to be lawyers because they think that lawyers make a lot of money, and some lawyers do, but lawyers study so much in school. Lawyers study as hard as doctors. And sometimes being a doctor, like being a biologist, studying biology, studying anatomy, the human body, is more exciting than studying a law book. Maybe you want to be a space doctor. Or here's a great one, a space nurse. Wow, I know lots of girls and boys whose parents are nurses. I know lots of students whose parents are nurses and they want to grow up to be nurses also. I've got so many people in my life who are great nurses. Wow, being a great nurse is a lot like being a great teacher. Super important jobs, the best. Also very fun, really, you get to make people's lives better. Like I'm working to make your life better. So I've got a special guest on today. Her name is Andrea Hamel. And she is one of the archivists for the astronaut Christa McAuliffe. Now you'll remember that I talked about Christa McAuliffe on Monday's show, that she flew on a space shuttle mission called the Challenger, which is very famous because while we were watching it go up into space, it exploded and all the astronauts perished, which means died, on board, just like that. And everybody saw it. And everybody was surprised and then sad. And then something amazing happened. Many people became inspired. And then something even more amazing happened. Even more people became inspired. People became inspired by the people who were inspired, and they would try to figure out why they're inspired, and they realized it was Christa McAuliffe, the teacher who went to space. And it turns out that Christa McAuliffe has all these messages that she created for us, for you. So that even people might not have even remembered her, but now remember her, all the things she said. And Andrea Hamel is one of the people that help people remember Christa McAuliffe. And that's important while we're having this space mission, because as I reminded you on Monday, something very important that grown-ups talk about all the time, it's funny that grown-ups don't remind this to students. Space is dangerous. It's like, when people, it's funny because people are divers of the ocean. People go into the deepest part of the ocean and it is super, super dangerous. It's as dangerous as space exploration. But we don't think of being a diver as super dangerous. That's not the first thing we think of. We don't think of the ocean as dangerous, but it is. It really is. Even if you're swimming just regular at the beach, it can be dangerous. It's important to be really thoughtful of our surroundings and what's going on at all times, really, especially when we're out of our environment, like in space. Space is like the ocean because we can't breathe water and there's no oxygen in space. There's no atmosphere. So we have to be really conscious of that. Space is like the ocean because the ocean, I've been in the ocean before where the ocean has something called an undertow and it pulled me under. And if I wasn't a great swimmer, I wouldn't be here today having this conversation with you. Sometimes things get out of our control. And that's why our job, like my job, is to make sure that you do all the things that make you as safe as you can be. And that's why the people working at SpaceX today are making sure that all the stuff is in order as it can be with the Crew Dragon mission. And even then, sometimes we get surprised. And that's life. For me, life is like a video game. So it's important to play the role you want to. Because if we could have an accident anytime. But I think it's much better if you're in a situation where you have an accident doing the thing you love versus having an accident doing the thing that bores you or doesn't interest you. Like, for instance, we all know the crocodile hunter, Steve Dundee. Oh, Crocodile Dundee. The crocodile hunter. Oh my gosh, now my brain has kicked in and is playing that trick with me. I'm thinking Steve Rogers now, who is Captain America. Thank gosh for Google. I'll Google crocodile hunter right now and it'll come right up. And you know what's funny is that in my book, The Astronaut Instruction Manual, I write about the crocodile hunter. Steve Irwin. It didn't even come up when I remembered it. Sometimes when we Google stuff, it comes up in our head before it even gets to Google. Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin, as we all know, ceased to exist. He stopped doing the thing he loved. While he was doing the thing he loved, everything stopped. It ended. Now, do you think Steve Irwin would have rather been doing the thing he loved doing most of all in the whole world when he ceased to be? Or would he have rather been bored out of his mind, bored, and then cease to be? I think it's the first one. That when we're doing what we love, it gives meaning And this is the important thing. When we're doing what we love, it gives meaning to our life. Like with Andrea Hamel. Andrea wanted to meet Christa McAuliffe when she was a student. Andrea was watching this space mission that happened that blew up, where all the astronauts perished. And it inspired her to write a letter. She's got a story. I want you to hear it. Let's check out that interview right now, shall we? I'll bring it up. We're here today with Andrea Hamel you're a teacher and you're from Duxbury?
I am, Duxbury, Massachusetts.
Duxbury, Massachusetts. That's a great place to be from. And you're a teacher.
I am a teacher.
And I'm a teacher too. And I teach astronautics, and you and I have a connection. You worked with the mother of Christa McAuliffe.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a dream job, and it was easy to see that Christa was exactly who she was portrayed in the media based from the stories that people who knew her the best told.
So a lot of the students that I work with may have never even heard of Christa McAuliffe, but I have to tell you that when I'm in schools, I think that Christa McAuliffe is probably one of the most taught about astronauts who's ever lived.
That was what we were always trying to do, was just, we wanted people to know, because her message for kids was.
What was Christa's message to kids?
That dreaming is okay. And reach for the stars, try for things that are hard. Look at her. She said, look at me. I'm a teacher, and now I'm going on the space shuttle. And if I hadn't just tried, I would have happened.
Right.
So she encouraged people to try for things, even if they thought it was out of their reach.
Wow. So Christa McAuliffe is famous because she was on the Challenger space shuttle that exploded in front of everybody. And all our students saw it while she was on it. And everybody was surprised.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, even especially her own kids, were really sad by it. And then something amazing happened. She went on to inspire all of us to pursue our dreams.
She did.
And then you pursued your dream. You were a student when Christa McAuliffe rode in that Challenger space shuttle, weren't you?
She talked about the whole world being her classroom when she was the teacher at space. And I feel like in that way, she was my teacher as well.
So when you were 10 or 11 years old when Christa McAuliffe went up in the Challenger, weren't you?
I was 10, yes.
And the experience, did you see the whole thing happen?
We watched it in school together, yeah.
Were you surprised when you saw it blow up?
We were shocked.
Shocked. Was it scary?
It was sad.
It was sad.
It was very serious, and it was very sad.
Sometimes things are very serious.
And it was confusing because the grown-ups didn't know what was happening, so they didn't really have a lot of explanations yet, because it took a while to figure out what was going on.
Wow. So in a way, you were students figuring it out at the same time as the grown-ups were figuring it out.
Yeah, we really were.
Wow. That's very mature. And then you wrote a letter.
I did. The explosion really impacted me, and my mom suggested that I send a card or a letter to Christa's family, because it's traditional to do when someone has passed away. And so I wrote a letter to her parents, to her mom, and just said, extended my sympathies in my 10-year-old words.
Did you write the letter by hand?
I wrote it by hand, yep. I think it's in pencil pen. Yeah, I wrote it by hand.
And then you put it in the mail, the actual mailbox, and mailed it with a stamp.
I did. I addressed it myself, and my mom helped me find the address to send it to, because the Corrigans lived in Massachusetts, and I did too. All of the state phone books were at the library. So I had to go and do some research first.
Oh, you got to do research.
Yes, I did. I love to do research. So I learned about all the phone books at the library, and then I found the one for the town where the Corrigans were, and that's where I got the address to send it to.
That was really good thinking. You know, when I was growing up, we used the library a lot, and now we use the internet a lot. But I still go to the library all the time.
Oh, I do too. I love the library.
I love the library too. And it's amazing that you have a good memory of going to the library to get the address to mail a letter to Christa McAuliffe's parents, whose last name was Corrigan.
Yes.
So she got married and her last name changed.
That's right. She was born Christa Corrigan.
Now, to be the teacher astronaut that she was, she had to compete with a lot of other people, right?
Oh, yes. There were over 11,500 people who completed the application. It was an extensive application that the teachers had to fill out. It involved essays, and she said she felt like she was writing term papers again.
I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I bet you do too, since you're a teacher.
Oh, yes.
And then she wrote those applications and she filled them out along with 11,000 other applicants, people who applied.
I think it was closer to 11,500 people.
Almost 12,000 people. And
yes.
They picked hers.
They picked her. She was the one.
They picked one of the most special people ever. They made the right decision, I think.
They knew what they were doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job, NASA.
Absolutely.
And so then you wrote, after the Challenger explosion, and you saw it, and your classroom saw it, and the teachers saw it, and the whole world saw it, you felt that writing a letter would be a good idea.
I was sad, and I didn't know what to do with that sadness. Wow. And so I tried to cheer her parents up.
That was very thoughtful. You're a very thoughtful 11-year-old. Wow.
I had amazing role models.
So when I remember me being 11 all the time, and I'm always kind of high-fiving myself as an 11-year-old because my 11-year-old self made a lot of good decisions like that. Those decisions paved the way for us in the future.
Absolutely. That was one of the things that I learned from Christa, is that I needed to make the decisions that were right for me and not to be influenced by other people and peer pressure. And it really helped me deal with those rocky middle school years of navigating things, because I had a pretty solid sense of who I was and who I wanted to be.
Yeah, I remind grown-ups all the time, who did you want to be when you were 11? Because our 11-year-old self is like a compass for us as grown-ups. As students don't have any idea that our 11-year-old self rides with us our entire life. And so the decisions we make at 11 can have a big impact on our life. And
that is something that I learned as a child, that children can make a difference just as much as adults can, and what kids have to say is just as important as what the adults have to say. And it was empowering, and I want kids now to know that too.
I like your 11-year-old self. I like your grown-up self too. So your 11-year-old self made a decision that had impact on you as a grown-up.
It absolutely, yes.
How did that happen?
It changed the course because of my interest in the Challenger and Christa McAuliffe, and I wanted to learn everything about Christa. And so I read everything I could get my hands on, and so it really went back to that first letter, though, because I got a response from that letter.
Wow, you got a letter back?
I got a note back from Mrs. Corrigan, and 11-year-old me was like, oh my gosh, they like me, they want to be my friend. And so I kept writing letters back to them.
That's Christa McAuliffe's parents.
Yes, and then her mother, she kept writing back to me. And I didn't know any better. I was 11. So I was like, oh, this is great. This is my friend. And we wrote letters for so many years that she invited me to come to the house where she lived, which was the house where Christa grew up in, to meet.
Wow. I bet,
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people wrote letters to Mrs. Corrigan, to
Mrs. Corrigan.
Grace Corrigan, Mrs. Corrigan, and
Yeah.
I bet that not many people kept writing letters. And then as the years went by, you just kept writing letters and she kept writing letters back.
Yeah. She, I think one of my favorite things that she ever said about me was, she said, "You're very tenacious."
Tenacious. What does tenacious mean?
Tenacious means you don't give up. You just keep trying, no matter what.
Wow. When I am working with students, I regularly tell them if they have a dream to sink their teeth into it and don't let go.
Yeah, that's what I did just by instinct. It felt important to me, so I kept pursuing it.
So you trust your inner self.
Yes.
And then what happened?
So then we met in person and we kept in touch and we would communicate and get together occasionally, and we knew each other. And then I went to college, and after college, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, so I was networking. And one of the people that I called for ideas and brainstorming was Mrs. C.
What does
And
networking mean?
networking means I was talking to people to get ideas for jobs that I could do.
Okay. And then you talked to Mrs. C.
And then so I talked to Mrs. C, and she said, "Actually, I really need some help. Could you come help me?"
Wow.
And yeah, I was like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe she had some other ideas or something. She was like, "No, I need help, and I think actually you would be a great person for this job." Other people had done the job and it had never gotten totally done. It was never completed.
Were you excited?
I was out of my mind excited. I was like, "Okay, can I start right now?"
Oh, wow.
I couldn't wait because I got to spend time with one of my favorite people and learn more about another one of my favorite people, and it was amazing.
So you got to help Christa McAuliffe's mom organize all the memories and pieces of information about the life and times of Christa McAuliffe.
Absolutely, yes.
Did you do that for a couple months?
I did that for several years.
For years?
I did that for several years until we knew what there was, and then we had to find a home for the archives because Mrs. C wanted the public to be able to access this information to learn about Christa.
So students today can access the information about Christa McAuliffe and her life.
Yes, they can. And I believe that there is now an online section of the archives. I'm not sure how much is up yet, but it will be available to more than just people in Massachusetts.
What's an archive?
An archive is a group of items that you save. Well, an archive is, it's a group of items that you save about a topic, or that someone has saved about a topic, and then you put together so people can learn about that topic.
So we save them for people in the future?
Yeah, for people now and in the future, absolutely.
Okay. So you helped create the archive of the materials about astronaut Christa McAuliffe.
I did, yes.
And we can access that material now.
That material is available for people to come in and see if they're in the area. And they, like I said, I should get more information on it, but I've seen more things online.
Wow. So students can, when they grow up and they get out of college, they can study Christa McAuliffe partially because of the work that you did.
Yes.
That's a blessing.
That is awesome. Thank you for putting it that way.
That's and you're a teacher now.
I am, yes. After I worked on the archives, I had spoken to so many classrooms and worked with so many students, and I fell in love with teaching while I was doing this. And so I decided that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It
I
was
know
great
that
to come
feeling.
in. That's what you're doing?
I said, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Yep. And that was it. That I think some people think, oh, maybe you wanted to be a teacher because you wanted to be like Christa. That wasn't what happened. I actually never thought I'd become a teacher. It's one of the last things I would have expected. But once I got into the classroom working with kids, I just fell in love with it. And I was like, this is what I need to do.
I have a funny teacher story. So when I was 20, I'm 55. When I was 20, I wanted to be a rock star. And I told one of my friends' moms that, and she goes, you're going to grow up, you're going to be a teacher. And I said, a teacher? I'm not going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a rock star. And when I was growing up, I really liked Neil Armstrong a lot. That was the astronaut who was around when I was growing up, and he was really important to me. And I don't know that I became an astronaut teacher because I wanted to be Neil Armstrong, but I definitely became an astronaut teacher because of Neil Armstrong. Like he made me think about astronautics and about being an astronaut. But I don't know that I wanted to be him.
Right.
I like him for who he is, and I like me for who I am.
That's exactly how I feel about Christa too. I learned so much from her, and there are things that she did that I wanted to incorporate into me, but I don't want to, I'm not trying to replicate another person.
Well, I like Christa McAuliffe for who she is, and I like you for who you are.
And I like you for who you are.
That's a good feeling. Thank you. When you are in your classroom, do you get to talk with students today about Christa McAuliffe?
I usually make a point of making sure that all of my students are introduced to Christa in some way.
You help keep her memory alive.
I do. That is the greatest gift that I have been given, to be able to help keep her memory alive.
I have a wristband with her most famous saying. It says, "Space is for everybody."
Oh, that is beautiful.
I wear that everywhere. I tell that to students all the time. Space is for everybody.
She had so many famous sayings. It's hard to pick one sometimes.
Cool. What's another one?
Reach for the stars, which means go for it, try it, do your best. No matter what someone says. Christa once said, you may only be a C student in English, but that doesn't mean you're never going to be a poet. So she was saying, grades are not the most important thing in figuring out what you love to do. And if you want to do something, you should pursue it, no matter what. And sometimes it might be hard, but it's worth it when you reach your goal. I want to say thank you to my 11-year-old self too, because it started my life on this amazing path and journey and adventure.
Little things have big consequences.
Yeah, and things that you do as a kid, kids matter. What you do as a child, that is important. It can have a huge impact on yourself and on other people.
On the whole world.
On the whole world, yes.
Even the future.
Absolutely. Every child that I've ever taught about Christa, every time I like to tell the kids that when they learn about Christa, they become part of the legacy. Because I think it's true. Christa's legacy, what we remember about her, is seen in the people that knew her and knew of her. And so whenever I introduce a group of kids to Christa, then now they have the information and they can share it with other people. And so that way everyone is part of the legacy who wants to be.
Andrea, you know what? That is 100% true. When I was growing up, I got to work with a person who had Albert Einstein as their teacher at Princeton University. And so
Wow.
they got to spend a lot of time with Albert Einstein. That person's still alive. He's almost 90 right now. And he told me all about the different ways that Albert Einstein would behave and talk. He would tell me about the things he would say. And it was like Albert Einstein came alive before me. And in this way, you met Christa McAuliffe's mom, and Christa McAuliffe came alive before you, and now you share that with us.
Yes.
That's a powerful gift.
It is an amazing gift. And knowing her mom, it's easy to see how Christa was the person that she was.
Wow, what a beautiful share. That's a perfect share for today.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You're definitely one of our friends.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll see you in the future.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. Wasn't that an amazing interview? There's a lot to take away from that interview. So, Andrea Hamel was not Christa McAuliffe. But Christa McAuliffe's work was so important that Andrea Hamel, as a 10 and 11-year-old, decided that it was important to continue the work of Christa McAuliffe. It was important to have it remembered. Even as an 11-year-old, this is what I tell students all the time about how you as a student are a lot more powerful than most grown-ups let you know. And it's not like we hide it from you. The thing is that we are busy too, you know. We think about stuff and we're working on making sure that you have food, making sure that you have clothes, making sure that all the bills are paid. And so we forget some of the important stuff. We do. And one of the important things that we forget, this happens all the time. I talk with grown-ups and I know that this is the case. We forget what it's like to be you. But I don't. I remember. And it's because as I point out, my 11-year-old rides with me in this life. Like, you don't remember what it's like to be a 55-year-old because you haven't been one yet. You might remember what it's like to be a 5-year-old if you're 11. But I'm 55, so I remember what it's like to be 11-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 20-year-old. And I remember that all the stuff that I did when I was you either worked for me or worked against me. Thankfully, I'm the kind of person that all the stuff that I did almost always worked for me. And I made a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes helped me to become the person I am today. I've made mistakes before. We'll talk about that someday. Today we want to talk about how mistakes, like what happened when the space shuttle exploded, led to our remembering the lessons of Christa McAuliffe, the teacher astronaut, which led to me having this conversation with you, because today we're sending human beings back to space. See how it all ties together? These are important lessons. If it didn't happen, it would happen. So because Christa McAuliffe means so much to us, we take care to make sure that this spaceship that Colonel Bob, and Colonel Doug, that the spaceship they're in is safe, secure, sound, and the best possible spaceship it can be to get them to space and bring them back down so that they can be with their family and continue their work and inspire their students, their children, to be the best people they can be in the way that we grown-ups do. Hopefully I'm showing you how it all connects and how it all ties together. And your role in it. You are part of this story. You watching the launch today makes you part of this story. This may be the first launch that you ever watch. Maybe you watch launches all the time. Maybe this will be the first launch you watch and you go and watch launches from here on out. Maybe that's the one. So then me introducing Christa McAuliffe to you today, that means that I, as a 55-year-old, did something to the advantage of my future self as well, and your future self, and our whole planet's future. Some people live short lives and some people live long lives. The important thing is, what kind of life are you going to live? That's the important thing. Is it a life just like, if I was just after for stuff for me, if it was just about me, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. And where would the reward be in that? I don't know that that benefits the future or the world or you or me. Since I'm the kind of person who has a lot of compassion, and since I remember what it was like to be you, it's an honor to get to talk to you. It's one of the best things about being a grown-up. It's the best thing about having all the life experiences I've had that I can share them with you, and maybe help you in your path. That's amazing. Like, maybe I'm the person that I needed in my life when I was you. Did you ever think about that? And the reason I bring that up is because, what kind of grown-up are you going to be? Have you looked forward at yourself in the future and seen your grown-up self yet? Because if we can look back and remember how we were, we can look forward and imagine how we will be. If I'm going back and talking with my 11-year-old self, well, my 11-year-old self is there talking with a 55-year-old self, me. So you could look forward and talk to your grown-up self, see what they need from you. Do they need you to send a letter to somebody? Like Andrea Hamel sent a letter to Grace Corrigan, Christa McAuliffe's mom, that opened up the door for her future so that she became one of the archivists for the life and times of Christa McAuliffe, so that you and I can have this conversation today. That's a pretty powerful thing she did as an 11-year-old. I hope it lands for you, how powerful you are. And that's really why I want you to send letters to the people that you really are inspired by, or the people that you care about. Even if you send a letter to your mom, to your dad. You know, when I was you, I didn't know my dad. I didn't know my real dad. He wasn't in my life, but I still wrote him letters. I used to write him letters all the time when I was you. I met him later when I grew up, when I was a grown-up. I met my dad as a grown-up. And along the way, I had a whole bunch of people who filled in for my dad. So in a way, like, some people are like, oh, you didn't have a dad when you grew up? That's so sad. And then other people are like, wow, you had lots of dads? I did. I hear the Q&A question, the Q&A alarm going off right now. What an amazing day. We're gonna do it a little different today. I just want you to be ready for the launch that's happening today. I just want that. So I want you to take away from this and carry this information while you're watching the launch today. And remember, there's 2 human beings on board. So we put good intentions for them. When I'm at a launch, there's an amazing thing that happens, and you're going to get to see it one day. I promise. You're going to get to see it. I don't make a lot of promises. But if you pay attention to everything that I'm saying right here, I promise you'll get to see it. When I see a launch, when it's launching, I was at Falcon Heavy, the SpaceX launch, big, powerful rocket. And it was standing straight up, and it starts to launch. It's so loud. I was very close. And I'm still miles away. That's kind of what it sounds like. And while that's going on, everyone around me, I was at the Banana Creek viewing area, and these are all space science professionals, and we're all saying one thing: go, 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 go. And that's what I'm saying about you. You're like a rocket that is launching. And that's why we're doing all of this. Because I get to be one of the people that inspire you, like Christa McAuliffe inspired a young Andrea Hamel. Wow. What a treasure. Today is an important day. I am proud of you. You are amazing, and that inspires me every single day. I think about you every day. You are amazing, 100%. You inspire me to be the best person I can be. And I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to seeing who you turn out to be as when you become me. And what choices you make. And what mistakes you overcome. It's gonna be exciting. It's fun to be a grown-up. I love being a student. As a grown-up, I get to be a student. I love being a kid. It was fun doing that also. So the launch is happening today, SpaceX Crew Dragon. Colonel Bob Behnken, Colonel Doug Hurley. And they are flying on a spaceship. And human beings are on a spaceship launching from the United States of America. And you get to watch it. And it's a pandemic. And that's a problem. That can be bad. People are perishing. And at the same time, you're at home watching this because it's a pandemic. So isn't it funny how some things work out in a funny way? I'm glad you get to watch this today. I'm glad you get to be inspired about your future. Who knows what comes next? The only way to find out is to go and see. So keep up the good work. Take a picture of yourself watching. Take a picture of yourself watching this launch. Hashtag it. Astronaut Adventures. Kid Astronaut. No, hashtag it Kid Astronaut Crew Dragon. Hashtag it Kid Astronaut Demo 2. But hashtag it Kid Astronaut. I want you to take a picture of yourself watching this launch. This is your future unfolding right before our eyes. And I'm as excited as you are. Maybe more. Because I know how the process works. And I want you to write a letter, just like Andrea Hamel wrote a letter to her hero and her champion and the people that inspired her. I want you to write a letter to your champion and your hero and the person that inspires you. Heck, you can write more than one letter. I give you permission. And if you need help, ask a grown-up. Ask a mom, dad, tio, tia, auntie, uncle, grandparents, friends, neighbors, older brother, older sister. Or if you're really smart, you can figure it out using Google. Really smart. It's always fun to ask for help. I do not mind asking for help ever. Okay, that's our show for today. You keep up the good work. We're all going to be watching the launch today, and we're all going to be putting good intentions out towards the astronauts and their families, just the same way that I'm putting good intentions to you. In the words of my people, pow, pow, pow.